The great thinker I wanted to look at was none other than Martin Luther, the father of the Reformation. He was born in 1483, lived till about 1546. He was a German theologian, professor, pastor, church reformer, and he was a monk. He first began his education to become a lawyer, and one evening in a storm, he told the Lord through prayer that if the Lord would save him from that storm, that he would devote himself to God and become a monk. So God helped him through the storm, and he followed through on his end, and he became a monk, and he began to look at Scripture and read Scripture on his own, because he had taken Latin. And all of a sudden, he begins to notice that some of the things in the church are kind of messed up at the time. And he wrote the great 95 Theses and put it on the church wall there on October 31st of that year. And through that, the Reformation happened, but really what happened, even more so than the reach of just church reform, he reformed education. Because he had such a strong belief in how people were being taught Scripture and things like that, that he saw us as a society needing Scripture to be central to everything that we learned. And he really pushed for that. And he had the Bible at the center of every single curriculum that he saw that was necessary. But in doing that, I will say that there's one big critique that people have said, is that maybe he focused too much on the liberal arts. He saw the importance for liberal arts in their ability to kind of use them as tools to gain knowledge to Scripture. Because then again, his main concept was Bible was first, Scripture is first. So that's where he wanted to get to. But Martin also saw education as a way to get freedom and liberty. He saw literacy as a way to have freedom. And you can kind of see that in his writings about trying to get the Bible in different languages and things like that. He didn't want the teachers to be able to necessarily just hold the keys to all the information, and the students just had to take that information. He wanted the students to be able to be active learners on their own. Martin also, he said that he saw that education was the only true gateway to finding oneself. What I mean by that is to find their calling or their job. And I would say that is a personal critique that I would have is I feel like some people can find their calling outside of education. The educational realm isn't for everybody. Some people find their calling in doing things that really don't have to have an education to be able to do. People who just enjoy crafting and different things like that, they have this intuition of their own. People who are good at music, and they can teach themselves these things. They don't necessarily have to find that calling through music. But he also wanted to educate the whole child. He saw students in their spiritual life, their mental state as being extremely important, and how to educate that and facilitate the educating of not only their mind but their spirit. And I feel like we still do that today. That's why mental health is such a big thing, because we know that a mentally healthy kid is a kid that can learn. He also introduced education to everybody. You know, before this, education was only available to rich males, and he opened up education and said that everybody is created by God, everybody deserves education, and that's something that's still impacting us today. He said women need to be educated, the poor people need to be educated, not just the rich, not just the male. And another thing he said was we need to have engaging curriculum. He said it is very important to engage our students in such a way to where they fall in love with learning. And that's something that every teacher strives to do even today. That's Martin Luther.